right, so let's start with this webinar. My name is Afonso Solac. I'm a civil engineer. I work for the Department of Software Development of CYPE. Okay. Today I'll be here with you during the next hour in this session. Actually, this is the third session of this cycle of workshops, of webinars that started on the past 24th February, and that will finish on 16th of June. Okay, so during this cycle, we'll try to see a little bit about all the sectors or all the groups of applications that we have at CYPE. Okay, more specifically on the 2021 version. Okay, so this cycle is organized by CYPE together with BIMserver.center and Open BIM systems, and in this cycle, in the first section, where we saw a little bit about 3D architectural modeling, okay, generating IFC files with CYPE architecture. Then we saw a little bit about the generation of graphic documentation departing from that model that was created before in CYPE architecture, okay, generating the different documents that you need to represent your project. And in this section, today is Wednesday, March, we'll see a little bit how to generate the view of quantities of this model, how to set this, define all the settings of our software to then generate automatic view of quantities. Okay, so we'll extract the quantities from the BIM model and then correlate this information with items from a cost database, for example. Okay, we have two sections in each day. So it's on every Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on the Central European time and at 8 p.m. on Central European time. So you have both choices. You can choose which one is better for you. All right. So today, let's start with that. We'll connect CYPE architecture. Okay, so this is a little model that I have here that was developed here on CYPE architecture. But the same situation could be, or the same workflow we can apply to any other software that can work with IFC format. Okay, so if there's a software that exports IFCs, you can use this workflow to generate the view of quantities or to extract the quantities of your project. Okay, so this one was created with CYPE architecture, but the work itself will be done at Open BIM Quantities. Okay, Open BIM Quantities is a tool that can connect with CYPE architecture or, as I said before, any other application through the BIMserver.center platform. Okay, so here we have the BIMserver.center menu, and this is my profile. Here I have some options to export and update the models. And as you can see here at CYPE architecture, we have something similar here. So we also have here the BIMserver.center menu. Here actually we have a little bit more options, but we also have the buttons to export and update the models. Okay, so I'm also with the same account here. Okay, using these buttons or this menu, we can send and receive information from one application to another. Okay, so we will use that. And you can also see that here we have a little button that is view of quantities. And actually we can create a new file or a new, it's a new file with this view of quantities, just clicking on this button here at CYPE architecture. There is a direct connection between CYPE architecture and Open BIM Quantities. Okay, but first let me show you how you can download this application. So you just have to search for BIMserver.center in your browser. So this is let me change here the language as that was in a previous presentation in other language. Let's put it on English here. So yeah, here we are much better. Okay, so this is the dashboard of BIMserver.center. So when you create your account, you log in, you can see this dashboard where you can see your last projects, your contacts. You can manage your collaboration requests. You can also see how your toolbox or your download applications which is the status of each one, so if they are updated or not. Okay, so here you can also see the licenses and models that you have, different situations that could be related to your projects. Okay. Looking here on this side menu, you have also other options here. For example, this one, there is a store. I also I prefer to say that that is a toolbox actually, because there are too many tools here that are for free. Of course, not all of them are for free, but there are I think there are 30 or 35 different applications that are for free here. So I prefer to say that is a toolbox, because the idea here is, depending on the needs of your project, you can use one or another software. So you can choose the right application and select the tools that you need to create this toolbox or this companion of applications to develop that specific project. Okay, so that's the idea. And all the softwares that are here, they have one option similar to this one to export and update the models, okay, through BIMserver.center. In this case, let's search for Open BIM quantities, or we can look for view of quantities, for example. That is a concept related to the webinar of today, view of quantities. Let's see here. Let's see, oh, there is a problem here, or just quantities, for example, quantities. I think it's okay. Yeah. So here we can find quantities, okay, for example, but we can also navigate. We can just search here for different categories of applications. So the most popular applications are for structural analysis, or here we have a specific group of applications related to view of quantities. Let's open this one, for example, here in a new tab, or electrical systems, HVAC systems, different kind of applications here. Okay, so for different points of our steps of our project. In this case, on view of quantities, we can see this group, 6 different applications. Here, there are 2 applications that I think they could be very interesting. One of them is this one, Open BIM Cost Estimator. You can use this application to generate a fast cost estimation of your project. You can quickly just defining some parameters of your project, you can have an idea about how your building will cost. So it's an easy way to generate or to estimate the cost of your project in some minutes. It's very quickly. And the situation of today, the application that we use is going to be this one, Open BIM Quantities. So in this case, we already have a model, and we will connect this model with this application and extract the quantities and then generate a view of quantities. Okay, so just coming here, you can download the application directly from this button. Okay, then you can choose the language and also the type of licenses. To use the trial version, you have 30 days to prove that. So yeah, you have also this option, just downloading from this button here. Okay, here we also have some available resources. So here you can find other seminars like this, or some links of interest in different languages. So if you have any doubt, you can come and consult the information that is available on this button. All right. So let's start with that. The first point, I think it's interesting. It's let's suppose we have this model. Let's suppose in this case I am an architect. I have been developing this model here. It's just this simple swimming pool that is created and it's a topography that is not that good. So we had to create this wooden structure here. And let's see a little bit how this model was created. It's going to be very important to know how this information was the information was included in our elements or in our BIM elements, because then we'll need the information related to each element to generate this component. Okay, so the first point is the topography itself. It's actually a sketch. Okay, so it means that there is not any, it's just the geometry. It's not any, there is no information related to the topography in this case, in this project. Okay, so in this case, the topography is just to define the size of the columns here, okay, to have a reference to this model, but there is no information related to the topography. For example, there is one point, okay. Another point that is interesting is this part here. So this part was created inside of the architecture tab of CYPE architecture. It means here we have elements related, they are BIM elements. So there is information behind the geometry. So in this case, it was created with a slab, okay? It was a floor slab. So there's a label for that. It means it's part of a group of elements of terrazzo flooring, for example, and there's a name. So this element here that is in orange color at this moment have this identity, this reference, floor slab 15. Okay, so this is the name of this element, and then it's related to a level, some geometry situations here, the thickness, and also a color. Okay. Another point that is quite similar are these elements that are in blue color. This one or this one, this one. They were created also as slabs. Okay, so if we edit one of them, let's select, for example, this one. Okay, so this is the floor slab 003, and it's part of the group wood deck. Okay, so we have here another label that is different from that one, that is related to the deck or the wooden deck that we have created. Okay, so here with this button, we can see the different tags or different groups of elements that are related to slabs on this project. We have 3 different groups. Okay, so this is the second group, for example. And here, the difference from that point, here we have just one element to everything, but here there was we've created different elements. So here we have different, how can I say, we have a group of different different elements, different objects, let's say that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 different types of different elements here. Okay, on our wooden columns and beams, or the wood structure, we have a similar situation. So here we have, for example, the columns. In this case, there is a column 1. Then here we have a column with another name that could be, for example, the column 2. This one, for example, could be the column 3. Okay, so here we can define the name of these columns, column 4, for example. Okay, and inside of that, we have a label, the columns that have size of 15 per 15 centimeters in this case. Okay, in this case here, the same column 15 per 15. Okay, we have different columns with this one, it's not okay, so we can select here column 15 per 15. Okay, there's a nice way to classify the columns and group them using this button here. For example, copy properties. We can copy one property from this column, for example, the label, and say that this column, these, all the columns that are similar or that are part of the same group, they have the same tag. So I'll select this one, confirm, and if I click here, there's the column 15 per 15. Okay. And the last element I would like to show to you is, for example, the beams. We have here transversal beams. The beam 1, for example, is a transversal beam in orange. There's another transversal beam here. In this case, it's the beam 2. Okay. If I remember here, there is a little beam that is also transversal beam. Okay, so transversal beam, beam 3. Okay. And then we have a second group of beams. They are the longitudinal beams. So this one, for example, is a beam 6, but it's another group, longitudinal beams. Okay, and we will also have the same situation with this one, for example, longitudinal beams, different groups, right? Just showing a little bit how these elements were created. I think just you have to understand from where the information will be. How you send information from CYPE architecture or from one IFC file to Open BIM quantities to generate this view of quantities. Okay, I think this one is similar to this one. So we have here also the same label, terrazzo flooring. Okay, the steps of the stair here are terrazzo flooring, all of them. Okay, And the swimming pool itself here, there is no label. It's just one swimming pool, so it's the swimming pool with this name, swimming pool 001. Okay, just to show this element. Right. So we have our project. The architectural model it's done. It's finished. So let's export this information to BIMserver.center and connect that with Open BIM Quantities. So first, I will select one project. So project selection. Here we can use this button. I'll create a new project in this case. So today is this is going to be my for example my new example. Okay, I don't remember which day is today. Is Wednesday, 10th of March. 10th of March. Okay, so my new example, 10th of March. This is going to be, for example, other projects, not a professional project, it's just an example. So it's going to be not visible at BIMserver.center. What it means, I will not share this project with anyone. So it's just a test or an example, and we'll work alone. So I could invite someone to work with me in the same project, but in this case, I will work alone. So I would not like to receive collaboration requests. So it's closer to collaboration requests. Okay, so here, this is going to be the new project. Let's accept. Okay, let's accept. All right, so now it's connected with BIMserver.center, and let's export this IFC file. So let's click here, and we'll put a name for this file. It's going to be the architectural model.ifc, for example. Okay, let's accept. And now we are generating this IFC file. So from those elements that were created with CYPE architecture, we'll convert them in IFCs, or in one IFC in this case. So we are generating this file. Let's wait some seconds. Okay. Let me see here if we have any question. Just some highs. Hello, welcome to this webinar. So yeah, we are finishing here the model that is exporting. Yeah, here we have the information. So the export was finished. So one local copy of this IFC was also saved in our computer. We can also look for this file using our Explorer, okay, in our computer. Let's accept that. Okay, that's perfect. In any moment, if we want to change something on the project, we just have to come here now and export again, and maintaining the same name, we'll update the project. Okay, so now let's jump to Open BIM Quantities. Open BIM Quantities here, let me create a new file, okay? New file, and here there was the test I was doing before, just before the start of this presentation. So let's create a new file here on Open BIM Quantities. Let's wait a little bit here. It's saving just this other project. So a new project, I will use the same name. So this is going to be my new project. Today is March 10, for example. And in this point, we will not create a new project in BIMserver.center. Why? Because we created before with CYPE architecture. Now we have to select the same project. We work in the same folder, in the same place in the cloud. So let's select the project that we've created before. So just let's wait the list of projects that I have in my account in this case, because I'm connected here with my credentials. So yeah, here there is the project, my new example in March, okay, created by me, and last change was just some seconds ago. Let's accept, okay. And inside of this project, the project, my new example in March, okay, there's one IFC, the IFC that we've created before, okay, created with CYPE architecture with the name architectural model, okay. Let's import this file. Here is very important because in some projects, maybe you have different files or many IFCs that are connected, and the project is created with different IFC files. You can import all of them here. You just have to select which IFC do you want to import to generate the bill of quantities with the program. Okay, so we'll import, in this case, the only one that we have, CYPE architecture. Let's import this model, import finish it, okay, and let's wait the software prepare the work environment. And here we have the IFC of CYPE architecture inside of Open BIM Quantities, okay? So here we have a lot of things to do from this point, okay? The first thing I would like to say again, if we need to change something here on CYPE architecture or if we put another BIM modeler, we just have to export it again. And here inside of one Open BIM Quantities, just update, okay? Simple like that. Second point, we have information from our BIM model. So we have here the geometry, some information. So for example, this column. This column is the column 4, as we said. We changed the name. So it was column 1, column 2, column 1, column 2. You can see in orange color. Okay. Column 3, column 4. So these were the columns that we've created. They are inside of one category or one group, column 15 per 15. Let's remember. So here on CYPE architecture, we said this column is going to be the column 4 that will be inside of the group column 15 per 15. Okay. Inside of Open BIM Quantities, we have the column 4 with the name with the group column 15 per 15. Okay. Is why I said that is the information that was introduced on our BIM models was so important. And if we open here, okay, we will see more information about this column. We can see some information that are related to the base properties of this column. Okay, what it means. The information that is related to the identity of this column. Okay, so here we have some conceptual information. The entity based on the IFC standard created by the Building Smart organization, or the type name, what it means, the group or the tag that we defined to this element, so column 15 per 15, okay? So the name, and also, for example, we have here a global ID, what it means, it's a unique code related to this element. Each different element from our project will have a different global ID, okay? So we can, in a specific situation, we could select one specific object from the project or one specific element if we know this ID, for example. And there's a second type of properties here, for example, the quantities or the base quantities. Okay, so if we open here, we can see that this column have a length of 2 meters. The cross section area is this area here in square meters. Okay, so we have also here other parameters like the gross and net volume. In this case, they are the same. Okay, or the gross and net surface area of this column. Okay, so properties that are related to the quantities of this column. Okay, if we go to, for example, this little piece of slab or this wooden deck, for example, the properties on the base properties group will be similar. In this case, there is another entity. So here in our how can I say, in our list of elements that we have in our project, the IFC column was inside of the columns. The columns are inside of IFC column. The slab is inside of IFC slab. So IFC column, and here somewhere the column 4. Okay, but if we go to the slab, we will be inside of IFC slab. In this case, the floor slab 13. Okay, inside of the group wood deck. Okay, all right. So this information is here. Okay, this is the identity information related to this slab. But here we can see that the quantities can be different because it's not the same situation when we have a vertical element that is almost based in a line like a column, and another element that is based on a surface like a slab. So here we have different parameters. For example, here we don't have the length because there is impossible to say what is the length of a slab. Okay, so here we have area, gross area, perimeter. For example, the perimeter here is different. On the columns, we don't have the perimeter here. Okay, so different parameters, and these parameters are related to the IFC standard related on the classification proposed by the Building Smart, so the Building Smart organization. So for each type of element, you can have different parameters. Okay. All right. So what we know until this moment, that we have a BIM model. This model have information that was introduced during the process of 3D modeling. Okay, so we add the classification or the information related to each element here in our 3D modeler. But inside of the tool that we use to generate the view of quantities, we can also consult this information by clicking on the elements. Okay. All right. So this is the first point. The next point is going to be connect the information that is on the view model with costs. Okay, with items from the cost database. That's the next step. But before, we must create these costs. We must add these costs. We must have a cost database. Okay, so we have our view model, but we have to have our cost database too. For that, we have this button here, cost databases. Okay. So here we have a specific tool to create our cost database. Let's do an example. So let's suppose this is going to be my new cost database, for example, new cost database, for example. We have some options. For example, if we use the format BC3, BC3 is a standard format to view of quantities that can be used in different softwares related with this area. We can import this kind of files here. So we can import these BC3 files with graphical information, attached documents. Okay. In this case, we'll create a new one. My new cost database. Okay. So let's edit this new cost database. And here we have different situations. For example, we can define the general parameters of this database. So the currency symbol, which currency will be the currency of our project? Let's suppose it's Canadian dollars, for example, or I don't know, USA dollars. Okay, USD, for example, USD dollars. Or the currency symbol is going to be on the right or in the left side of the numbers. Let's suppose it's on the right side. Okay, how many decimals? Here we have different configurations to define the decimals of the precision of our numbers. Okay, so this is the first point. Then here, for example, we can create work sections. Let's suppose we have one first section that is foundations. Okay, we will add, for example, the code F for foundations, and this is going to be foundations. Okay, so yeah, here we have one chapter, one folder, let's say. Okay, then we can have another one. Let's suppose it's structures. So it's structures here, structures. Okay, so yeah, here you have a second one. Then we have another one that's going to be, for example, I don't know, the finishes. Okay, so finishes. Just creating here some different situations. Look, we have the same code, although they are different chapters with different concepts, foundations and finishes, but we use the same code for both of them. So the program said that we have a problem here. So let's change. Let's suppose this is foundations, and this is going to be, I don't know, structures, and this is going to be finishes. I'm just creating a code here, different code. Okay, so now we don't have that problem. Okay, that's very interesting. Let's suppose inside of one of these chapters, we will create some items. Okay, but first we have to add the resources that we will need inside of each item. How it works? We create, for example, the materials, all the information related to the workers of our project inside of resources, and then use this information inside of items that will be inside of the chapters. So here, for example, we can add a new resource. So, for example, could be a labor or a machinery or a material, or also, for example, we can quantify the waste that is related to one specific part of our project. So let's suppose we create a material. This material, for example, I'll create a code for that. So material 001, for example. I don't know, just a specific code. It's gonna be by cubic meters, for example, and it's gonna be the price of this cubic meter is gonna be, I don't know, $300. So let's suppose it's a bin of wood with I don't know, some information here. Okay, some information here. Okay, we create here our concept. Okay, so inside of the resources tab or resources list, we have this element. And at any moment, we can change that information. So now the price is different. It's $350, and we will change. We will not work with this unit. It's going to be by length. It's going to be by meters. Okay. Or here, I would like to say that this bin of I don't know, a section. It's going to be with a specific session. I don't know, some information that is different. Okay. So we can create that. We can also duplicate this information. Then let's imagine that we will create also the column from the bin. Okay, so the column of 15, I don't know, I'm just putting here some aleatory information. The price is going to be different. It's going to be, I don't know, $400, and the code is going to be different because now the software is telling us you have two codes, two resources with the same code, mat001. So let's change here to mat002. Okay, so it's also a material. And then we can also create a new one. For example, let's imagine that here we have a worker. For the workers, I will create a new code, work, for example, 001. And here the unit is hours, for example, and this is going to be a labor. So this is going to be, I don't know, $17 per hour, or I don't know, $12 USD dollars. So worker A, for example, I don't know, just a specific situation. So here we are creating the resources, okay, different resources. One resource could be used in different items of our project. In this case, for example, let's create one item that is the bin, another item, another item that is the column, and we use the worker for both of them. Okay, so here inside of the structure chapters, let's add an item. So let's create a new item. And in this case, I will create an item that could be, for example, the code is going to be structural BIM, for example, 001. Okay, the unit of this one is going to be also cubic meters, for example, and it's going to be also, for example, in this case, material. Okay, so we have this situation. We can create this item here. Okay, this is it's one option. And how here we can add concepts to the breakdown. So we can come here and now click here, and we can look for those resources that we created before. And let's suppose we would like to add the material bin inside of the item structural bin, let's say that. So this one, and we'll need one cubic meter of the material 001 to generate 1 cubic meter of the SB001. Okay, or could be one with 5% of difference here. I know we have this situation. Okay, so now inside of that we have the material inside of the concept. Okay, so here the concept, structural bin with sections of I don't know, with the specific section here, 2010 to 15 to 25 centimeters. I don't know, different structural bins could have the same price. And then we must add also labor here. So let's add another one here. Let's select in this case the worker A, and let's suppose we need 4.5 hours to install or to construct 1 cubic meter of structural beams with this worker. So now here we have the total cost of this structural beam. Okay, let's duplicate that, So let's duplicate that. So just using the copy button here, and let's suppose this is gonna be the structural column. Okay, the structural column. So the structural column, it's very, when you have this, the first concepts or the first resources of your project to create the others, it's very easy because you can use the information that was created before. So I just created here another concept, and inside of this part, it's not going to be the bin, it's going to be, for example, the column. So the material 002. So yeah, here we have the columns, and let's suppose here we need a little bit more. Let's suppose here, or a little bit less. It's just 4 hours. So we have differences in our prices. With that, we've created a little database, a very small database with just 2 items, okay? 2 items, 3 chapters, some resources, okay? But from this point, you can export this database and use that on different softwares that adopt the BC3 standard, okay? Or you import from that, okay? You have these situations. And that's interesting because you can set here and you save your coast database in your list of databases. So in the future, you can use this database on different projects, not just on this project that we've created before with CYPE architecture. Okay, so that's very interesting. You can use this information, and with the years of experience of your let's suppose your office, you increase the number of items inside of your cost databases, and you have more and more precision in your view of quantities. Okay, so let me show you here another cost database I have here. I think I have this one here. So look, this one is quite similar. I've created with structural elements, mensury. Here there's a chapter that I think it's not finished, or there's another one here, no information inside. But you can see I have prices from different countries. For example, in this case here, I have from Brazil. I also have from Colombia. I have here something from Malaysia. So it's interesting because the standards to generate a bill of quantities, or the concepts are different from country to country or from region to region. And here you can have, for example, one specific cost database for each state of the USA, or for each province, or each part of a specific country with different concepts and prices. Okay. All right. So we have some information from our costs. Okay. I think I will use this one here. Let me see what we have inside of that. So here we have more information columns. We have here also a structural mensury, and here we have nothing here. Let's just change this part here. Let's add, for example, an F here. Let's suppose this is finishes. Okay, so and inside of that, let's add an item that's going to be the T001 unit meter, this one here, labor, and let's suppose there's the terrazzo floor, for example. Okay, terrazzo, I don't remember how to write that, terrazzo floor, for example. Okay, just to have our example. Okay, the unit is going to be the same, that one, USD dollars, for example. Okay, don't worry exactly about the numbers here, just an example. Okay, it's not with the precise, it's not precise. Okay, so cost database, that's going to be our reference. Okay, so we have two things. We have the model. This model has a lot of information. From this model, we will extract the quantities. And we have now a cost database. We have items, we have prices, we have costs for our project. We have to connect both of them. Okay, so we have to correlate this column with the column that we created inside of the cost database. Okay, how we do that? For that, we need to use the second option here, the measurement rules. Okay, so we have to set these measurement rules. Okay, so these measurement rules, we can also have here a list of measurement rules. So depending on the country you are working, you have specific rules to generate the quantities of your project. So in this case, let's just create a new one. So I will add a new set of measurement rules. And there are some classifications. For example, the Omni class is a very famous and very useful classification. So for example, I could say this is the I don't know, Omni classification to my pool project, for example. I will use the same classification but with some specific rules to this project, but could be a general set of measurements rules too. Okay, depends on your use. You see that. So I will select, for example, the Omni class. If I use this option, I have this structure or these folders where my rules will be located and introduced based on the Omni class classification. So here we have the substructures, the foundations, the standard foundations. So here we have the shell, the stereo vertical and horizontal enclosures. Okay, so we have these concepts that are from the Omni class classification. This is one option. Okay, but you can create your own classification, or you can create another standard. For example, let's suppose there is a specific standard to create rules of measurements in Canada, or I don't know, in Iceland, and you can create this using the options that you have here: adding sections, editing, copying, duplicating, deleting sections, and then using these little buttons here, the red button, you can export this structure, and in future you can import this structure by default on your software, so you don't have to create every time this structure here. Okay, so I just imported the Omni class to show you how to import one that is by default on the software, but I'll create a new one. I'll create a new one. I think it's going to be more interesting creating one. So let me close this guy here. So let's create a new one. So my new set of measurement rules. Okay, I think I have another one with the same name. Let's suppose this is 10th March. Okay, in this case I'll create a new one that's going to be empty. Okay, so it's going to be empty, and let's edit. Okay, and let's create, for example, one specific work session to structures. Okay, let's suppose structures. Okay, and sorry, we have to add a code and then the reference. Okay, the concept of this, the name of this folder, and inside of that we can create a new one. For example, the columns. So the columns, we'll say the column like this one. Okay, so inside of columns we have to create a rule of measurement. For example, I'll create a new one. This is going to be the columns, the wooden columns, or the columns with, like as I said before, 15 per 15. You don't have to use the same name that is here. You don't have to be the same name that you use it here. It's just a coincidence. You don't have to do that. Actually, I will do something a little bit strange here. I will say, this is different, okay? This is different. No, it's not the same. Just you don't have to use that. I prefer to use, but you don't have to use that. So I'll create this rule of measurement. And what we have to do is to select something from our view modeling. So the selection space here, the selection window, it's an information that comes from our BIM model. In this case, we have to select those columns that are related to the item that we want to connect, okay? And inside of this part, the items from our codes database. So we have to put information here and information here. So let's do that. I will just put these elements a little bit more here to have more space. And using, now you can see that I am connected to one of my coast databases, one coast database that is named also coast database, okay? But you can open the databases using this button here, assign codes, okay? And you can select, you can browse, you can change from one coast database to another. So all those coast databases that we introduced on Open BIM Quantities before, they are available also here. So one of them, the coast database that we created today, it's going to be somewhere here. I don't remember which one it was, but this is, for example, is the last one that we saw with these three chapters. Okay, so we have it here. First point, let's select for example, the columns from our project. Let's use this button here, the button of add, and here we have a lot of parameters that we must define. Okay, the best or the easiest way to define these parameters is using this blue keys or these blue arrows that we have here. So first, let's select, for example, one parameter. Which parameter we would select? The parameters, let's just go back here for a while. The parameters that we have here, the parameters related to the identity of our project. I would like to select all the columns of my project that have the type name column 15 per 15, for example. Okay, so we could do that, or we can create another type of criteria. It could be all the files or all the columns of all the elements of our project that are classified as an entity IFC column. Okay, or I would like to select just the column that have the name column 4, or just the global ID column with this global ID. So we can choose, we can use this information to select the elements. Let's go back there. Set of measurement rules. We are working on this one. Let's edit that. So inside of structures, columns, in this measurement rule, let's select all the columns, for example. Let's use the type name parameter. So all the elements of my project that have the type name parameter equals or does not equal, or it's greater than, it's less than, contains, okay, a condition. It's equal to, for example, column 15 per 15, okay? So yeah, with that we can select the columns that have this type name or that are part of this group. Now you can see how it's important to define the information inside of our model. So this information was necessary to select these columns. If it was an empty parameter, it would be more difficult to select that columns. We need to select by reference, for example. Okay. All right. So let's go back. So here we selected. We have the columns with this type name or with this tag, this group. Okay, column 15 per 15. Now let's add one item from our codes database to these elements. So let's just open again our codes database here, and it's very easy. We just have to navigate to go to the item that we want to choose. So for example, the column that we have here. So this column is with this unit here in cubic meters. So let's add this item to this point, just using this button here, add. So if you see here, when we accept, we have the information here. So all the information, all the data related to this item is inside of these parameters here. And now we have to select the parameters related to the quantities of this project. You remember when we saw the base properties and the base quantities of a column, there was the length, the surface area, the cross-section area, the volume of this column, which is the best quantity, which is the best unity to generate the view of quantities of a column, for example. So we have to define that. We have to set this information. So for example, here I can select the, I don't know, the volume, let's see, or the net volume of of all the columns, or the, I don't know, the gross volume depending on the situation. Okay, so we can have different situations depending on each type of element. So gross volume, for example. So we are here inside of, we have 4 spaces to create also, how can I say, we can create a formula. We could create, for example, like in we have 4 cells here. We can multiply, for example, A per B more C. Okay, we can create formulas using the information, and we can add different parameters from our BIM models here. Okay, in this case, it's very simple. It's just the gross volume of our element. So it's just the letter B, just the cell B that is related to the base quantities of our IFC entity. Okay. Okay. So this is is finished, we can accept, and we have the selection from our BIM model, and here the item from our cost database that is related to this element. Okay, let's do another one just to do again and see a little bit more how to create that. Okay, so let's create, for example, here another group that's going to be the, in this case, the beams. Okay, so beams here. Okay, the beams, we'll create inside of the beams a new rules of measurement. So it's going to be, for example, beams. Okay, and inside of that, let's select. Now we'll do the same. You use the same parameter, type name, for example, type name, and let's select all the elements of our project that have type names equals to, for example, longitudinal beams, okay, or longitudinal beams. So we'll select all the longitudinal beams of our project, and to the longitudinal beams we'll add some items. So the beams we have here, I don't know, a beam, a saw timber section beam, a specific item with a specific price. So let's add, and let's suppose in this case we are using also the net volume, for example. Okay, net volume, so it's going to be B. Okay, so actually very easy to do that. Okay, beans. Let's create a new work section. Let's create, for example, one specific for the finishes, for example, finishes here. And oh, it was not here. Let's delete here. We have to select here and add a new code, finishes, for example. And let's add a new rule that's going to be the stone, I don't know, the terrazzo, so I think it's a Italian word. I don't know if, I think it's okay, terrazzo. So let's select, in this case, the slabs. The slabs, all, I don't remember the names. I can consult my project. So here, the slabs, and these slabs have a name and a label that is terrazzo flooring. So the type name is going to be terrazzo flooring. So let's select, for example, the parameter type name, and all the elements from our project that have type name equals to terrazzo flooring. So we'll select that elements, right? So here, yeah, we have the terrazzo flooring. And I think here we have three good examples. Okay, it's not complete. We have more elements in our project to correlate, but I think it's okay. Oh, just because here we selected, but we have to add an item. So for example, the finishes here, terrazzo floor. Let's add this element here. And in this case, let's set, for example, the net area, not the net volume, but the net area of this element. It's in this case, it's better to use the area, not the volume, the surface of our element. So the formula is going to be B2. Okay. All right. Let's accept that. There are some errors. Let's see which each errors we'll have here. Let's see where we have here. Probably, I don't know where are our here. We have some errors here. I don't know where, but let's see what happened. Yeah, we have here some errors. Let's see what is happening here. Here we can see the rule of measurement 1 columns. Probably the codes are not okay here. So work section, the value of field is not valid. Let's see which value is not valid. Could be, I think we have to have the same work section, the same structure here that we have in our view of quantities. So there is a nice way to do that. It's just coming here to the cost databases. I would like to use the same structure here, let's suppose. So EAF, okay? Let's suppose I can do this. I can export this structure here using this button here. So structure, for example, structure. Let's export that to the desktop. And here inside of set of measurement rules, we can't edit here. Let me no set of measurement rules. We can't create a new one in this case and import that structure here. Okay, so my new structure, for example. And here we can add the measurement rules. So E structural elements, I will use the same here. That was the point. We have to have the same situation here. So this should be E structural elements, for example, and these elements here. Let me select these guys and select these guys here. And these columns, let me see if it's gonna work. And the other is gonna be, yeah, just look, it works. We have to have the same structure here. So the other one is gonna be, sorry about this little mistake. It was just I didn't remember this detail. So the finishes could be F finishes, and so let's go back here. And in this case, F, just an F here. And now we don't have any problem. Okay, right. So now we have connected so some elements of our BIM model with our cost database. We can see that all the entities that we have in our project, or all the groups or the categories of our projects, we don't have one category that is 100% done or 100% connected. But inside of IFC columns, we can see that some of the columns, those columns that have the criteria that we selected, the type name with this name here, column 15 per 15, so they were correlated with the item EMS 010, okay? So with this concept and with this formula, okay? We can see the same situation, for example, the beans. The beans, those beans there were longitudinal beans, they were selected, but the transversal beans were not selected. Why? Because in our criteria, we didn't include the transversal beams. We can include that in a second moment, okay? But we can see that they are connected here. We can also see that inside of our slabs, so IFC slabs, we can see that the terrazzo flooring, those little pieces, for example, this guy, all these elements were selected and connected. They are green here. So this little guy, this big guy here too. So they were connected to one specific item, okay? But we have a lot of work to do yet. So we have some walls here. We have more elements in our wooden structure. We have different elements that must be connected to the database. But when we finish that, the result should be everything on green color with this green check informing us that everything is connected. Okay, but from this point we can generate a view of quantities or a partial view of quantities with these quantities. We don't have to finish that. We can have an idea about how these elements that we're connected can cost. So to do that, we just have to, I will say it before, we have to jump from quantities of the BIM model tab to the view of quantities tab. Okay, so here we have we can create our view of quantities here. So we can create specific sections. You can imagine that sometimes some concepts of view of quantities are not necessarily related to geometry or a part of our BIM model. You can imagine that something could be very conceptual. You can manually add this information to our view of quantities, just creating here sections and then adding items from your database. So not everything needs to come from your BIM model. Some part, or maybe most of the information will come from your BIM model, but sometimes you may need to add manually information, and you can use these options here. It's actually quite similar to that options that we saw before when we created our database. Adding sections, adding items, copying, deleting information. But the most interesting part is to use this information that was connected here. So to do that, it's very, very simple. You just have to use this button here, update the quantities. Okay, update quantities. And here you must select the cost database that is going to be the reference to your view of quantities. So in this case, this cost database. I think this is one of the, it's amazing this part, because here you can have different cost databases from your country, different from different regions of your country, or maybe from different countries. And just by selecting the cost database that's going to be the reference of your view of quantities, you can change from one cost to another and have this, for example, the different costs of a same project in different places. So let's select, for example, this one, cost database, and let's accept. Okay. Here we could apply a coefficient if we would. In this case, we will apply no coefficient. So here we can see that the total amount that we have at this point is $4,649. So, and here we have the structural elements that were connected. So the terrazzo floor, the columns, and the timber beams. And we can see, for example, inside of the beams that just the longitudinal beams were the quantities of the longitudinal beams were generated. The transversal beams, they were not connected. They were not the quantities. We don't know how what's the quantity of this element, okay? Because our criteria didn't include the transversal beams, just the longitudinal beams, okay? So here we can see the columns too. So the columns, yeah, all the columns were classified as column 15 per 15. Those that are on the bottom part and also those that are on the upper part of the structure, okay, all of them. So here, no problem, we have everything. So the total cost of columns is 2,595, okay. And here, for example, the terrazzo, we also have here the terrazzo with the small elements that we have here on the steps, and also the big parts, or the main part, let's say that. So here we have the terrazzo. This part, for example, is 46 square meters, and this one is just for 0.77, and then some of them with .35. Okay, so here we have the elements. The total cost is this one. Okay, but also I would like to include also those beams that were not included in our criteria. The transversal beams have a cost, and we'd like to include this on our view of quantities. So let's do that. Let's come back here to the quantities of the BIM model, and inside of our rules of our set of measurement rules, let's edit that, and let's suppose inside of the rule that we created to the beams, we would like to include those beams that are longitudinal beams and also those beams that are transversal beams. How can we create that? So we can duplicate this information here, the longitudinal beams, and say that I would like to include the longitudinal beams, and in this case, all those elements with the type name equals to transversal beams. So we can add more than one selection criteria here, okay? So we can create two of them here. But it's important, if we maintain the operator and, it means that we have to select one element that have the parameter type name equals to longitudinal beam and the parameter type name with the value of transversal beam. That's impossible. We cannot have one element from the BIM model with two different values. We must have one situation or another situation, one or. So we must change this operator here, and it should be or. I would like to select the elements that are longitudinal beams or transversal beams. Okay, so we have to select that. It's going to be the same item from our cost database, for example. Okay, let's suppose it's the same item. So let's maintain that. Let's accept. Let's close our measurement rules. Let's go to view of quantities, and let's update the quantities. So let's update the quantities. It's going to be the same cost database. Let's accept. And the results, let's see. Oh, yeah, we have a little change in our prices here, but if we go to the the beams, we see that the transversal beams were selected too. Okay, so these quantities were also included in our bill of quantities. Okay. All right, let's do a last change. Okay, let's suppose we are working on this project and we are here in CYPE architecture. Okay, and there is a specific need of our project to add, for example, I don't know, more columns. Let's suppose here, let me put here the orthogonality. Let's suppose we have to add more columns. For example, 1 meter, 1.05 meters here. Okay, let's add just more columns. It's a specific element that was inside of our bill of quantities. It was inside of a specific, rule of measurement. Okay, but we have to add more columns, and it means more cost. So let's put more here. Just put more columns here. Okay, a lot of them here. Of course, we should add also the footings here, but it's just an example. Okay, just some columns. Just let's change something here. And in this case, the architect is exporting this project to BIMserver.center to inform the team that there are changes in the project. Hey, we have here more columns. We must add a structural solution for that. We also should consider that on our bill of quantities. Maybe we have more other disciplines that can clash with these columns. So we are informing our team, about this change, exporting another IFC. Okay, so we are exporting this another IFC. Let's wait a little for that. It's just finishing this process of generating a new IFC. So a new IFC was generated. Okay, so yeah, here we finished the work on CYPE architecture. Let's go back to Open BIM Quantities. Inside of Open BIM Quantities, here on the first step, you can see that this button here, it's flashing. Okay, it's flashing. There is a attention signal. So watch out. There are something in your project that was modified. In this case, we can see that the file that was modified is the architectural model. Let's update that. So here in our list of IFCs, we can see that this file is with changes. So let's select that file and let's import this new file, or this file that was updated. So let's update the quantities. And as you can see here, inside of Open BIM Quantities, we have more columns, the new columns. That's very interesting because if we click here, they are in green. Okay, they are in green because if you see here, when we created a copy of the columns, we used the same label. Okay, so here the label is column 15/15, and we used this information as part of our measurement rule. So we don't have to do anything here. It's already connected. So that's very important because if we are organized and we always use the same criteria to define the names, the labels, the references of our models here in our 3D modeler, and then we also define the same set of measurement rules and use the same codes in our codes database. When we create new projects, we don't have to do everything again. We just have to update. And if there is everything that is not connected, we'll see because it's going to be on a red signal like this one, not in a green signal like this one. That's amazing because you save a lot of time with that. Okay, but let's see how much that will cost, these new columns that we add in our project. Let's go to view of quantities, and at this moment we have this price. Let's create here just a little print screen of that. So for example, this one, let's save here, and let's update the quantities. So I'll use the same codes database, and let's see what happens here. Oof, there's a lot of cost here. It was 4,000. Let's see the difference. It was 4,000 and now it's 7,000. Okay, so just the columns, it was the third number, this one, it was 2,500, now is 4,800. Okay, that's current. And if we click here, we will see also the new columns that were included in our project. Okay, that was just an example about this process of updating files through BIMserver.center and how can be easy to consider these changes if we work with a specific organization defining a specific criteria to our set of measurement rules. All right. So that was the presentation of today. From this point, I would like just to open the section for our Q&A moment. If you have any question, you can ask for that. Let me see if someone is asking us. Amar is asking us if we have an INR option. Amar, I'm sorry, I don't know what exactly it means. What is an INR? If you could please just tell me what it's specific is. What is an INR? I would like to try. In the groups. Yes, you can include that. Let me show you here. To change that, you just have to come here, general parameters, currency, and let's see. Yes, we have here the Indian rupees. Sorry, I didn't realize that it was the international code to the Indian rupees. Okay, so you can do that. And you can also create, let's suppose there is a currency that you are working that is not here, but there's a lot of them here. You can also create your own currency here. Let's suppose this is my new currency. I don't know. You can create your currency and add, and then you can also all the informations that are in this part of general parameters. You can also the percentage here, okay, the taxes. You can export this set of parameters and use this information again. So exporting using this button and importing this in a next project. Okay. So I hope that was useful for you. For me, it was a pleasure to share a little bit about this software. I think it's an amazing software. I invite you to download and try and use this application. And I hope we can meet in a next event during these sections that we are organizing during this semester to discover a little bit more about CYPE 2021. See you in a next opportunity.